gentlemen, 2005 was the absolute apex of LucasArts. In that year, numerous Apex games were released. Battlefront II, Republic Commando, and most importantly, Knights of the Old Republic 2. Today, we're going to be taking a look at one of the Apex games of 2005. Star Wars Battlefront II, the real version. I still remember the day quite clearly in 2005 when my mother and I went to the local Game Crazy. I had watched the release date of Battlefront II like a bloody hawk, and I was psyched for this game. I even dreamed about it. I dreamed of the Mustafar level because I wanted to play it so badly. I could barely contain myself when I finally got the game, when I finally was able to throw it into my Xbox and experience the joy and wonder of Star Wars Battlefront II. Star Wars Battlefront II was released on November 1st, 2005 in North America. It was developed by the legendary Pandemic Studios and published by LucasArts for the Xbox One, the PlayStation 2, the PC, and most importantly, the PlayStation Portable. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the Xbox One version, the PC version, and even the PSP version. Star Wars Battlefront II is a first or third person shooter that allows you to fight it out on foot, in a vehicle, or in space. When the trailers for Battlefront II first dropped and said, "Finally you get to fight it out in space," I was like, big deal, you could already do that in the X-Wing and TIE Fighter games. But in all reality, the space combat in this game is substantially different from the space combat in those games. The base ground combat is nothing short of excellent. I generally prefer to play Battlefront as a third-person shooter as it gives me more spatial awareness. And to be honest, I love seeing the player model. The controls for the various versions are spot bloody on. And no matter what you play it on, you will always be in full control of your character. Yes, even the PSP has absolutely amazing controls. For the PSP at least. The camera is also transcendent as well, and always points where it needs to, and you never die because of it. The vehicles all control quite well and never feel floaty. There are different types of game modes you can play. Galactic Conquest, a mode wherein you try and conquer the galaxy. Instant Action, wherein you can instantly jump into a map, and Campaign, wherein you play through various Star Wars battles as a member of the 501st. Vader's Fist of a Imperator! Under Instant Action, you can choose from a number of different game types. Conquest, which is your basic control point capture. Assault, a game mode wherein you try to outscore the other team. Capture the Flag, wherein you try and capture a flag. This game mode is notable for the voice acting they use. The Imperial CTF dude is hilarious and is extraordinarily memorable.
A point for the rebels? Inconceivable.
Then you have Hero Assault, wherein you can play as a hero-class character and battle it out against other epic rares. Heroes in Battlefront 2 are special characters that you unlock by racking up enough kills, and they will generally be quite powerful compared to base units. But you can still easily be killed if you are not careful. AI for the game is generally mixed. It can range from, "Damn it, I got shot by some bastard that I couldn't see," to, "My God, this is too easy." When you first play the game, the AI will likely trounce you handedly, but as you get better and better, you will likely find them to be pushovers. As you rack up more and more kills, you will be able to unlock certain perks. For the generic infantryman, you can unlock an elite rifle, which basically turns you into a Spec Marine. You can get a precision pistol, which is hard to get and not that amazing. All it does is allow you to zoom with the pistol and does not do that much more damage. You can also unlock a better sniper's rifle. In my experience, it is no better than the base sniper and actually takes one more hit to get a kill. One observation that I had while playing this game for countless hours was that the other character classes that you can choose from just do not have anything approaching the usefulness of the poor, bloody infantry, and are generally just too specialized to be of use when generally playing the game. In Battlefront 2, most of the time you will be advancing to take the objective, or flag, or what have one.
All the specialized weapons are great against their specialized targets, but the old Mudleg is generally good against everything, and is going to be your go-to guy for all your generalized military needs. Even in the future, when you have a nail, the 501st is the hammer. The game tracks over time all your kills and deaths, and unlocks, and even assigns you a rank, and you better believe I maxed literally everything out and was ranked General and had every single thing unlocked. Space combat can only be played on assault mode and is of mixed quality. It is fun for the first 100 hours, but eventually you will get bored with it, and that is because the AI is space dumb. In Spec, you have two character classes to choose from, Pilot and Marine. Both are good for their respective roles. Both can, of course, fly starfighters equally well because, video game. But the pilot can auto-repair the spacecraft, whereas the Marine cannot. In the space missions, you can choose from a wide variety of tasks. You can fly a starfighter against the enemy, you can attack an enemy ship's hardpoint, or you can fly inside a starship and blow up critical components. If you do not know what you're doing, you will get killed a bunch, as the enemy ships are filled to the brim with auto turrets, and they are defended by smaller vessels that serve as flagships. But once you know how to blow up the auto turret defenses, attacking a ship becomes an absolute cakewalk, and the AI is never smart enough to fix the mainframe, even though it can be repaired. Back in the day, I used to fix the bastard for them just so I could have a challenge. The AI is also never smart enough to try and invade your ship. Your cap ship shields can be taken down, and you can fix them, but the AI never bloody well can. It seems it might have been a coding issue, as they will stand around the bloody thing with fusion torches out, but they will never bloody well use the thing, and thus they look like utter pillocks. So, space is fun until it's dull. It could easily be fixed by a mod that gives the AI the ability to attack inside an enemy ship and fix their own systems. It would be even more fun if cap ships took enough damage to explode and thus cause an insta-win for the team that blew it up. Overall, the gameplay for Battlefront II is extraordinarily fun, but is hampered by mixed intelligence AI that will become super easy to fight once you put enough hours into the game. Graphically, the game has stood the test of time, everything is highly detailed, and the texture work, while aged to some modern eyes, still manages to age better than many games that came afterwards. Music for the game is groin-grabbingly transcendent, even for a Star Wars game. I can't play any of it, of course, but I want to point out one really awesome bit of scoring. When you unlock the hero unit Darth Vader, Duel of Heroes plays and acts as Darth Vader's theme. I get that we all like the Imperial March, but I always felt that the Imperial March was for the entire Empire and not just Darth Vader. The Duel of Heroes theme really does fit Vader quite well, as it represents his tragic fall to the dark.
I may have hated the prequels back in the day, but today I have a little better appreciation for them. Now, while I hated the films, I didn't necessarily hate the novels. In fact, the fall of Anakin in the Revenge of the Sith novel was some of the best EU writing of all time. And while the Revenge of the Sith film could have been better, the soundtrack was second to none.
So for me, in my headcanon at least, Darth Vader's theme will always be Duel of Heroes. The game also features a great deal of Revenge of the Sith music, and thus Battlefront 2 is a feast for the ears as well as a feast for your mind. Voice acting is pretty damn good. Tamara Mortensen reprises his role as the clone troopers, and Jonathan Cook also voices some clones as well, and will be the Republic dispatcher. The voice chatter is what stands out the most, as it makes you feel like you're fighting battles with an army, and some of it is hilarious, as some rebels will tell you to use your anger. Like with the music, the audio mix is a feast for the ears, and without it, Battlefront 2 would not be quite as good as it is.
Now, let's take a look at the various versions of Battlefront II.
The first version that I ever played was the Xbox 01 version. Sadly, I no longer have my original copy, but once I got my Xbox 360, I quickly rebought it, and it works quite well on my Star Wars themed Xbox 360. I had no freezes or crashes, and it looks amazing in 1080p. The Xbox controls were good in 2005 and are good in 2019. In fact, they are a bit better and more fluid than the PC controls. The Xbox version also has a bit better presentation as well. The title screen for the game shows various Star Wars movie clips, whereas the screen for the PC version is just blank gray. The Xbox version has a few other differences as well, most notably the number of points you can play up to in Space Assault. The Xbox version allows you to set 1,000 points, but the PC version only allows 350 for some reason. The Xbox version, of course, plays at a lower screen resolution than the PC version, but it still looks pretty damn good regardless, and if you are a non-PC gamer, it is still a great version to play, and only loses out to the PC version due to lacking mod support. And it is still my favorite version of the game.
The PSP version of Battlefront II was the very first PSP game I ever played, and will always have a rather, shall we say, morbid connotation in my mind.
The year was 2006. On Thanksgiving that year, my grandfather and I were on a drive, and he complained of chest pains. Uh-oh. But he shrugged it off, saying he did too many chin-ups the previous day. Surprise! Heart attack. Yes, later that day, after the Thanksgiving festivities were over, and I was back home playing KOTOR 2 no less, my mother tells me that Gramps had had a heart attack, and thus we rushed to the hospital. As you would expect, we stayed there for some time. Eventually, my mother gave me my PSP, which was meant to be a Christmas present, along with a copy of Battlefront II. So now, every time I think of the PSP version of Battlefront II, I think of sitting in that bloody hospital downtown, playing it to keep my mind off of various stressful subjects.
Thankfully, he fully recovered, and in 2019, he is still kicking ass. Just 1 week prior to this video, he gave everyone else a heart attack by blowing leaves off the roof at age 78.
The PSP version of Battlefront 2 was a great portable rendition of the game. They trimmed the fat and made it work on a handheld. They cut out the campaign and cut down on the number of maps, but that there were this many maps at all is remarkable, and the graphics don't look half bad either. Yeah, the textures are really, really low res, but they don't look like 8-bit pixels writhing pathetically, and the game looks as it should. And this was the first time that I ever had played a portable version of a game that did justice to its non-portable counterpart. The controls are the absolute best you are ever getting out of a PSP, and the devs even give you numerous control options, with default being by far the best. You move around with the bastardized button of a joystick, and you look up and down with the various face buttons. The D-pad is used to aim, ugh, that sucks, and change weapons, and you fire with the shoulder buttons. It's not perfect or even that good compared to the Xbox controls, but for the PSP, it works amazingly. One major difference between this version and the others is the lack of Starship interiors, but since space battles get boring after a while anyway, it's not that big of a loss. All told, the PSP version is an example of a handheld port done right. The PC version is of course more graphically complex than any of the other versions and does have mod support. Although you must be careful and not add too many mods, as there is a hard cap on how many levels the game can support, and if you go over said cap, you will cause the game to crash. You can mod the game to support 1080p screen resolutions, and it looks great in 1080p. And with mods, the game runs great on a modern PC. There are of course numerous level mods, and even some campaign mods, and they are all great fun. Thanks to the modding community, if you love Battlefront 2, you will be able to keep playing for bloody decades. One important thing to note is that throughout this review, I'm going to be showing clips of the various mods that you can get for Battlefront 2. And all of these mods can of course be found on ModDB.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's crack open the 501st journal and see just what sort of hell the poor bloody infantry get put through in the name of politics.
The story for Star Wars Battlefront II is told from the perspective of an unnamed member of the 501st Legion of the Grand Army of the Republic, and later the Galactic Empire. It is a personal story. It is a story of war and death. It is the story of loss and change. To put it simply, it is a boot's-eye view of the life and times of a Gropo. The cutscenes are just in-engine, almost machinima-like scenes from the game, but they work better than the flashiest FMV because of the amount of effort put into them. The voice acting really sells the world weariness of this 501st Trooper, and the actual visual elements accentuate it without being overblown. The story begins on Geonosis and serves as a tutorial for the game, and shows you a boot-eye view of Geonosis that we had never seen before. The first part of the game has you fighting through some epic Clone Wars battles, and by far my favorite line comes from the Utapau mission. I would play it, but there's some Star Wars music in the background, and you know what would happen if I played it. In short, it is the unnamed 501st Legionnaire talking about how in his bones he knew the war was going to end on Utapau. It is a surprisingly moving passage that is far more advanced in terms of writing than one would expect from a primarily gameplay game such as this. The Utapau mission also has you going up against General Grievous as a generic foot soldaten, and in my headcanon, it was a nameless Fett clone, not Obi-Wan, that took down the beast that was General Grievous. The real meat of the game comes after Nightfall. In this game, you do get to play as a 501st Legionnaire during Nightfall, and you do slaughter Jedi by the pallet load. This game was not afraid to show the darkness that lives within the Star Wars universe, but it shows the battle from the clones' perspective, and it does not show the clones as being super evil or just drones.
And they don't have bloody chips in their brains. Non-canon heresy! Destroy it!
Instead, it shows them as hating the Jedi from the very beginning. Not because they're evil, but because from their perspective, the Jedi got the adulation while they got ignored or derided. As of Nightfall, they have been told that the Jedi are trying to take over the Republic, and thus they do what they feel is right. They take them down before they can conquer the very nation that they have spilt so much blood over. And you never shoot any kids. It's little orphan Annie that commits the war crimes, not the poor bloody infantry. After Nightfall, the game becomes Star Wars Stormtrooper, as now you are a Stormtrooper fighting in the name of the Galactic Imperator. This is where the game gets really bloody good, and the story gets even more amazing. Once again, you are not shown as massacring civvies or anything like that. Instead, well, you know, when the Queen of Naboo gets restless, you gotta shoot her for the greater good of the Galactic Empire. And for all the Gropos, no, she's in the rebellion against the Galactic government, and you gotta stop her before she takes it down. You even get to face some CIS holdouts and shoot droids as a Stormtrooper. The story as it goes along gets even more and more awesome. Eventually you have to face down anti-troopers. Kamino no longer wants to produce clones for the Empire, and well, Big Papa Palps does not take that well, and thus, the 501st alongside Boba Fett show them who is the boss of this galaxy. The base gameplay for the campaign is like the rest of the game, just arranged in such a way as to make narrative sense, and it works really, really well to the point where you could have excised the campaign entirely, put it on a disc, and called it Star Wars Trooper, and it would have been worth the $50, because the gameplay is fully complex enough to be considered a real game and not just chopped up multiplayer maps. As befitting a true game, this game is bloody tough, and there are no inter-level saves either. Hell, there's not even any checkpoints! Thankfully, the levels are all generally short enough that it does not become annoying, but some levels are significantly harder than others. Most notably, the Yavin 4 invasion.
Our next objective is to capture the command post under the viaduct. Gather your forces. It'll be a tough slog.
Yeah, he ain't whistling the martial theme of the Empire.
Back in the Xbox days, it took me 4 bloody ever to beat that level, and I heard, it's going to be a tough slog, again and again and again. And when I finally beat that bastard, I did a small dance of joy. The final mission takes place on Hoth, wherein you completely stomp the traitorous rebels, and the game ends on a happy note, with the Rebs seemingly defeated and the Empire ascendant. Not seen is the later defeated Endor and the sundering of the Empire. The 501st would be split amongst the various Imperial factions, but would, as with all good things, get reconstituted by Thrawn, and just before the war with the Yuuzhan Vong, the 501st was alive and well and even started including some foul Xenos amongst its ranks. A detachment scene in the novel Survivor's Quest even had a bloody Duros in it, showing that there was no way to truly take down the might of Vader's fist. Now, you will likely have noticed by this point that I haven't even started talking about the multiplayer, and that's because I've never played Battlefront II multiplayer. As of 2019, I have only played this game single player. At some point in the future, I may revisit Battlefront II and talk about the multiplayer, but as of this point, I have not actually played this game online with anyone. But if you do want to play Battlefront II online, all you gotta do is download the program called Game Ranger, and there are always games going on, because even in 2019, the real version of Battlefront II is still kicking ass.
Star Wars Battlefront 2 was without a doubt an apex game, and still puts many modern games to shame with just how much content was packed into one bloody disc. And I cannot recommend it enough, be it on the Xbox, PC, PSP, or PS2. It is a game that deserves to be played, and it is a game that you will play for decades to come. And so, I am GeneralLotz, wishing you good Revenge of the Sith, and good Star Wars Bounty Hunter, whatever makes you happy.
If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and if you can, please consider supporting me on Patreon so that I can continue bringing you this awesome content.